What's up, everybody? This is KJ, and I am here with my TBA Season 3 Week 8 team builder analysis for my matchup against Grum. Grum's a very good coach. He is currently 1-6. However, don't let that record fool you. Again, very good coach. He won another league that a good friend of mine, Bubba, and also Grum run, the BDL. And there's actually a lot of overlap in the competitors in TBA and BDL. So, yeah, like I said, Grum won that league. He's had success. He won that league last season. He's had success in plenty of other leagues. I think we had a conversation where we were talking about it, and he had won like almost 70% of his games or something crazy like that. So, again, we're not going to take Grum lightly. He drafted a team this season that he's not super comfortable with. He's typically more of like a bulky offensive player, and he's got like sand offense. Yeah, I mean, let's jump right into this. We'll pull in his team up really quick, and then we will go from there. So, okay, here we go. So, Dracovish, Hippowdon, Slurpuff, Gastrodon, Centiskorch, Electivire, Megalop, Excadrill, Gengar, Sigilyph, and Shiftry. So, yeah, I mean, his team is very offensive for his playstyle, which is not necessarily great, but yeah, I mean, we have a chance for playoffs, so we need this game. Grum and I hyped this game up quite a bit early season. Both of our teams have changed quite drastically, but yeah, regardless, I mean, obviously want to win, but just hoping for a good game. So, yeah, let's get into the team. So the first mon we got here is Politoed. Politoed is going to be key for shutting down the Dracovish. It is also kind of a pseudo answer to Gengar because it can live, if he's not Specs, it can live multiple hits. If he is Specs, it lives at least one Thunderbolt, but I don't know, I'm struggling to see him bring Specs here just because I have Kartana. Yeah, okay, but anyway, Politoed with leftovers. We got Toxic to hit things like the Gastrodon that we can't hit normally, and like basically anything that's not weak to water or psychic, we have Toxic for. We got Scald for the various weaknesses to water on his team, Centiskorch, Excadrill, Hippowdon. We have the counter for Dracovish when it's not clicking Fishious Rend, as well as something like Megalopony. We live most hits, so yeah. And then the last move we have is Psychic, and that is for the Gengar switch in, because Gengar switches in pretty reasonably, especially if he knows that I have Toxic. So yeah, and we are Water Absorbed this week. Hopefully he forgets that hopefully he forgets that we could be Water Absorbed and thinks that we're bringing rain, especially with, you see on the team, both Kabutops and Politoed. So we'll see what happens. The next mon we got is the Mega Pinette. So Frisk. Frisk is a great ability. It's going to give some idea as to like what items he's running when we first come in. As long as we don't Frisk the Megalop, we're going to get some valuable information. So that's good. Running Will-O-Wisp to burn the various physical attackers that he has on the team. Need to watch out for the Centiskorch because that could potentially have Flash Fire, and we don't want to give it a fire boost. Destiny Bond to potentially do a 1-for-1 trade. We've got the Stab Shadow Claw, which does a lot of big damage, and then everything the Shadow Claw doesn't hit, Facade hits. And we're running Facade just because a lot of times people expect Destiny Bond, and so they go for things like Toxic or Will-O-Wisp on the Mega Pinette, so that way they can kind of stall it out with Toxic or Burn turns and not get the Destiny Bond. So running Facade because that makes it harder for, like, that punishes him for trying to do that. So we'll see what happens. And we have enough defense investment. I'm going to pull up his team again. We have enough defense investment to live some of the more annoying physical attacks. I think we live an attack from Excadrill, not Swords Danced, so that is good. So the next mon we got is Scarf Togekiss, and we actually are running Scarf Defog just in case. But Air Slash hits most of the team. Grass Knot hits the Gastrodon and the Hippowdon very hard. And then we've got Psyshock to hit the Gengar. So I think we're in a good spot there. The speed investment is to outspeed the Dracovish if it's Scarved. The special defense makes sure that we live a Scarf Sludge Wave from the Gengar. And then the special attack investment is so that we can potentially OHKO the Gengar if he's not bulky, if he's just like a very offensive Gengar with Psyshock, obviously. Next mon we got the Como. And the idea here was maximize the bulk of Como while still being able to Clanging Scales and get the setup, and get the boost rather. So at +2, Como's poking a lot of holes into Grum's team, and that's really what the plan is. I mean, Aura Sphere is here for basically anything that's weak to fighting, so the Megalop, because we do outspeed Megalopony after we get the +1 boost. And then we have Flash Cannon for the Slurpuff, which is kind of an obvious bring. We have Clanger's Souls to hit sort of everything else. And yeah, I think that's probably a good call. Yeah, so yep. And we also are EV'd to make sure that we outspeed potential base 80s, I believe. Yeah, so went above Shiftry just in case. I don't think Shiftry's coming to this game. I'd be very surprised, but you never know. So yeah, we are EV to outspeed Shiftry if it's Scarved, and everything else that goes to +1 we would outspeed. So in a good spot there. Next mon we got Kartana. We have the Protective Pads Kartana. So he has two mons that really scare me on this team. They are Gengar and Centiskorch, because those two mons are actually the two mons that stop Kartana in its tracks. So we are running Aerial Ace on Kartana for the Centiskorch, which does pretty big damage. It's going to probably be a 2-hit KO. I think it's a roll for a 2-hit KO if he's like absolute max bulk. But the idea here is we can hit things freely without worrying about Curse Body from Gengar or Flame Body from the Centiskorch. And shout out to Nintago, we were mocking, and he kind of thought about that, because originally I was Heavy Duty Boots to potentially deter him from, or potentially stop webs from being a problem. So I was Heavy Duty Boots, and then I also had the Timid Nature set where I could get speed boosts, and I was a Swords Dance variant, but that got hard walled by the Centiskorch. So I was looking and I found Aerial Ace, and Nintago and I were talking about it. He also saw Aerial Ace, and we were both like, it's probably a good call. And he's like, what about Protective Pads? And I was like, I like it. Let's make it happen. So not gonna get any stupid contact burns, and we have the flexibility to go Adamant this week, strictly because his fastest mons are outspeeding Kartana anyway, and this will at least speed tie with the Electivire, so assuming that it's not Scarved. So that's good. The last set is maybe my favorite set. So we have a mixed Kabutops with weakness policy. So the funny thing here, and this is, even if we lose the game, like, obviously I'll be mad because I'll be out of playoffs, but this is kind of for both the memes and because it actually puts in a lot of work. So we've got Endure Weakness Policy Kabutops, and I think 3 or 4 people this season have brought Weakness Policy mons against Grum, and then he also had another game in another league where somebody brought Weakness Policy Necrozma, and so I It wasn't originally, the slot was Crobat, and it was a mixed Crobat that could hit a good amount of everything, but it just wasn't doing enough. And I had Kabutops on here as well, and I was talking to somebody and they were like, "Oh, why don't you run weakness policy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was looking at Giga Drain, but it didn't really do enough." And once they said weakness policy, I was like, "Wait, if I ran Endure, then Endure Giga Drain, if I'm like, it has a chance to kill non-specially invested Gastrodon, but I doubt that's going to be the case. But it seriously does, I think, 80 to 90 something percent to a fairly bulky Gastrodon. So Giga Drain, and then we have Liquidation and Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet specifically for Drill and Sand, and Liquidation for basically everything else. If he doesn't bring Dracovish, or if we get rid of Dracovish, then if we get the weakness policy off, this kind of sweeps. His priority is Fake Out and Quick Attack on the Megalop. And one other thing I forgot to mention, we are also Weak Armor. So when he hits us, we go +2, we get the Weak Armor, and that's why the only thing that's outspeeding us is the Excadrill. So, yeah, I mean, Megalop is the biggest threat to this, but the nice thing is, if we kill something and then he brings in Megalop, we click Endure again, and we can live the Fake Out. And then, if Gastrodon is there, we click Giga Drain. If not, we probably are clicking Liquidation. So yeah, that is the team. This last Kabutops set is very, very gimmicky, so we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, we're playing the game very, very shortly. So I'm gonna grab a glass of water and I will see you guys back for the game. Alright everybody, I am back with the matchup versus Grum, the TBA Week 8 matchup. And before I get into sort of talking through the game, I do want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Bubba, who I did mention in the team builder because he admins a league called BDL with Grum. Bubba is currently pushing for 50 subscribers or like followers on Twitch. So I'm gonna link him in the description below. Please go give him a follow. Pop into his streams. It's a lot of the TBA, BDL, and ISL players that sort of watch his streams, and we just have a good time in there. He streams Pokemon Reborn right now, and he streams for anywhere from like 3 to 5 or 6 hours. So it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. But yeah, let's get into the game. Team preview. Looking at his team, I did realize no Gastrodon, no Centiskorch, so I was very happy about that. He did bring in the Slurpuff, but I'm not super worried about the Slurpuff, especially if we can kind of keep Mega Banette alive, or we can pressure the Slurpuff before it really gets going. And on top of that, Kabutops, if that can get going, then that also is an answer. But anyway, let's get into the game. I was leading Mega Banette here, no matter what, pretty much. It hits his team hard because it burns so many things. And if he ends up doing something like Toxicking it with the Hippo, then I also have Facade. So he leads Electivire, I lead Banette, and I messed up. This is first turn Mega. I meant to click Mega Evolve, and I didn't. I clicked Will-O-Wisp without Mega Evolving because I was going to click something else, and then I backed out. But so because of that, I did apologize to Grum, and I probably would have stayed in here anyway, but I stayed in, and I clicked Shadow Claw because I felt like that was the right thing to do. And so I get some chip, which tells me that he's pretty physical, or pretty physically defensive, rather. And so he got Rocks up, which, honestly, I was playing more offensive here, so I didn't really care about the Rocks too much. But I did have Defog on Togekiss, just in case. But here, we go into Kartana, thinking, okay, I can pressure him quite a bit. And he actually clicked Whirlwind here, so that gives me an understanding of what kind of hippo he is. And at this point, I'm just like, all right, let me just get damage off. And in hindsight, I should have just, like, I guess, yeah, I didn't want to click Clangorous because I wasn't sure if he was going to click Whirlwind again, but he actually Toxics here, so I could have clicked Clangorous, and that would have worked out. And so he does realize that he would lose Hippo if he stays in, so he goes into Electivire, and here is where I do set up. And at this point, I was just kind of taking it as whatever he sent in, I was going to do a 1-for-1 trade with Como. I felt pretty good about Kabutops, Kartana, Togekiss kind of winning the game because of no Centiskorch and no Gastrodon. So I do get the kill here, and I am going to die to the poison damage, which is unfortunate, but it happens. I can't really complain too much. And so he goes Lop, I go with the Mega Banette. And he goes for the Fake Out, which I did. I wasn't sure if he had it, so I did click Will-O-Wisp there. And now that I know he has Fake Out, that's just good scouting for potential Kabutops in the back, because Kabutops is indoor with Weakness Policy. But yeah, at this point, I'm just trying to get a burn. I think if he has Facade, then that's going to be unfortunate. But other than that, it kind of nerfs everything else. And so he goes High Jump Kick. He does kill a Mega Banette. That's okay. And now we go into Togekiss, and we pressure here. So at almost all times, I'm clicking Air Slash here, and he does bring in the Excadrill outside of Sand, which made me think maybe it's Scarved. And so I did want to see, and I thought my switch-in was Politoed here, especially because I have other things to handle the rest of his threats. And so he Earthquakes, and with that damage, I knew, like, with that damage, it was Life Orb damage. Or it looked like it was Life Orb damage, but then he didn't take any damage. So at that point, I thought that he was just like some kind of boosting item. Come to find out, he was actually Soft Sand. So that is good to know. But he goes for the Iron Head here, revealing obviously that he's definitely not Scarved. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to just click Sacred Sword. It picks up a kill. And I knew that I could live a Fishious Rend from Dracovish, even at 67. So whatever he did, I felt like that worked out. And so with this, it led me to believe that he had to get the Sand up to make sure that Dracovish could outspeed. And I think he knew, or thought that he knew, that Banded, Strongjaw, Fishious Rend would kill Kartana, but it actually doesn't. So I'm able to take one of those, and if he wasn't banded, then I would be able to take 2 if I was at full. But surprisingly enough, he doubles there, and I'm just clicking Leaf Blade here because it's going to take out pretty much everything. And so yeah, now I'm at +3, and I think I'm thinking like Kartana does pretty well here. So I wasn't sure if he thought that maybe I had Protect or Detect, and so he didn't want Lop to come in and potentially crash from the whatchamacallit. But I do live the Fishious Rend, and I do click Leaf Blade again and get rid of the Dracovish. And yeah, if I did have Detect, then obviously like this would have been kind of mind games, because I would have mind games because he would have faked out, and with the burn, Fake Out doesn't do much. And so yeah, then if he was like, he takes the damage, because he's going to take sand damage. He's also going to take burn damage after these 2 turns. And so, like, if I was detect, then he loses 50% and then dies to pretty much burn chip. So I think it was the right call to try to preserve Lop, especially because with I guess maybe not with the burn, it's kind of hard. But he had to be able to take as many sand turns with Dracofish as possible. But yeah, so after this, I just send out Togekiss, and we're not risking any misses. So I clicked Psyshock, and it did pick up the kill. So yeah, great game to Grum. A lot of fun. Glad I got to. Not that anybody was ever questioning it, but I'm glad I got to showcase Kartana's stupid potential sweeping ability. And we're now 3-5. We are in the playoff picture. We're definitely there. We need. There's 3 4-3 coaches. One of them is definitely losing this week because 2 of them are playing each other, and then the third one, not sure. I think he's playing the number 1 seed. So if both of those teams lose, we actually have wins over 2 of the 3 of them. So some things might get shaken up, and we might have a shot, especially if we can win next week. But who knows? But yeah, if you liked the content, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave some comments. I love feedback. I try to respond to most, if not all, of the feedback that I get. And I do also want to just end this by saying, please look in the description. I mentioned Bubba earlier, but there's a ton of other great content creators that are doing more than just draft content. Primal has a Pokemon Platinum Soul Link going on with Bubba, so that's going up on his channel. Like, they're posting like every 2 or 3 days at most, or at the least, it's usually like every 2 days, but sometimes it's every 3. I think they're on like 5 or 6 episodes. And then there's creators like Film, who is now doing like a draft low tier highlight. He did his first one on Kecleon, so that was pretty cool. JCJ is doing a bunch of draft content, as well as he's doing a playthrough of a ROM hack from somebody in one of the servers that we know, so that's really cool. And then there's also Rick, who, on top of draft content, also does some VGC content and some ladder content as well. So yeah, take a look at all of them. They're all really chill, and I think that's it. So thanks for watching. I'm out. Later.